What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is time for episode number 28 of ChangeMakers. We've got Jermaine Lawrence Anderson on tonight's program. Please do us a favor as you start to join, hit the like button, hit the hearts button, hit the care button, all the above, all the different reactions you can have. Please hit it and go ahead and share this out there. What's great about ChangeMakers, as you already know, is this is all about people that are creating change in their communities, being the ripple effect, and actually taking action to be the change that they wish to see in the world. You are going to love this episode. I'm going to enjoy this episode. I always love being inspired by these guests. And the other great thing is, if you want to share it, you can share it with no fear, because this isn't about politics. This is strictly about people that are creating massive amounts of change in this world and inspiring others. So do me a favor, go in the comment box, tell us where you're from, and then we're going to get the show started in 30 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for ChangeMakers. What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony Russo with BetheChange USA. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get the show started. First off, thank you guys for joining. Do us a favor, share this out. Nikki's in the house in the comment box saying hello, Jermaine. Hello from hot Central Texas. Barbara's in the house. Fort Worth is also got a lot of Texans, and we've got a hello from Michigan. Guys, do me a favor, hit the share button, hit the like button. This is the show that we all get to enjoy. This is the show where we're not complaining or talking about or trying to create political change and figure this out. This is what Be the Change is all about. It's finding people out there that are willing to step out of their own comfort zone and create massive change in the world. You have seen all the different guests we have had on this show, from ex-police officers that are creating change in their own communities to the Daryl Davises of the world getting people out of the KKK. And a lot of you saw Jermaine from 2 weeks ago. Jermaine was killing the game with his restaurant that they give away free. He did not even have a cash register. We all enjoyed that one. So guys, please hit that share button, hit all the comments and likes and things that we can to break that algorithm to get more and more people watching this. This is the kind of shows we need to share, because creating that ripple effect is really the key to this country, key to this world, and how we create change. Recently, I'm going to give a quick story before we introduce our guest. One of our typical viewers did something kind in her own world, and she posted about it. She showed the photo or video and talked about the fact that she bought somebody lunch, bought a homeless man lunch. And people shamed her, saying you should be doing things out of the kindness of your heart, which I will be honest, a couple years back, I may have said the same thing. But ultimately, in the world we are in right now, with all the negativity that we see, when we do something positive, share it not because you need people to tell you how amazing you are, but share it because it creates a ripple effect. It creates a domino effect. It creates a viral activity out of something positive instead of something negative. And that's what this show, and that's what our concept of being the change is all about. And it's actually taking action instead of creating awareness. With that said, if you guys ever want to support our show, as you guys know, I am a bigger fan of our Patreons than really our Venmo and Cash App stuff. So just skip the stuff on the bottom. Wait for it. Patreon. Patreon.com/BetheChange. USA. You guys can find Motivational Mondays there, all the different extra stuff that I can provide it with whatever time I can, and you're supporting everything that we do with Be the Change. And also last but not least, everything that we also do for our shows is up on our podcast. That is the easiest way to watch things afterwards or listen to things afterwards. Easy to find. #BetheChange.com/podcast. That has everything from Make America Think Again to ChangeMakers to Truth Will Set You Free, etc. And it comes out a couple days after all of these shows. All right. Now, with all the housekeeping out of the way, I am incredibly excited to bring up our guest. You may have seen this gentleman, and I like to use the word gentleman, on Kelly Clarkson. He's been on there talking about his program. He's educated, empowered clients and businesses alike to discover their purpose as their journey to achieve personal and professional success. But that's not just the reason we bring Jermaine on here. He launched the I Am Gentleman Inc. Foundation. It's a mission of I Am a Gentleman to engage, enrich, and empower young men for successful careers, healthy lifestyles, marketable skills, and well-balanced relationships. It's such a simple idea with a huge mission, huge goal, and creating massive amounts of change with more than 3,500 young men and adult men have benefited from I Am a Gentleman. With that said, guys, introducing to our stage, give yourself a home round of applause to Jermaine Lawrence Anderson.
Well, good evening, Anthony. So excited to be a part of ChangeMakers on this evening.
Man, I am excited to have you. You are a true change maker. We're gonna show a clip of you on Kelly Clarkson a little bit later. But before we get to that, I want people to. I gave the sterile introduction. I want the people that are watching to know your story and know a little bit more about I Am Gentleman.
Well, thank you again for this opportunity. Again, honored, humbled, elated to be a part of this online platform on this evening. As you introduced, I am Jermaine Lawrence Anderson, the founder and the executive director for I Am a Gentleman Incorporated, which we'll talk about in a moment. But just a little bit about me. I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I started my first small business when I was in elementary school, specifically when I was in the 4th grade. I started a desktop publishing company. And through that company, we would make T-shirts, birthday cards, greeting cards, business cards. And it was a really great hobby at that time. And, I entered some business classes in elementary school, decided to take that company and put it in the school fair. I think when I was in the school fair at that time, the company had ranked number 3. And then by the time I made it to the 7th grade, the company in the school fair was ranked number 2. And then by the time I made it to my freshman year of high school, something happened that was really, really amazing. My small business, which was incorporated, was ranked number 51 out of 100 youth-owned businesses in the entire United States of America. And,
awesome.
Just experienced some tremendous growth. And it was at that moment when things began to shift for me. People heard about, this young African-American kid, this young Black kid from the west side of Chicago, whose company was ranked number 51 out of 100 youth-owned businesses in the entire country. And I started receiving calls to come and share my story. So I would come and share my story about how I got started in business. And I would speak at churches, I would speak at libraries, neighborhood youth centers. But the majority of the places that I would speak, Anthony, were at graduations and commencement ceremonies. And I would go to all these graduations. I would travel across the country from the West Coast to the East Coast to the Midwest. And traveling to these graduations, I would always see young Black and brown boys who looked like me walking across the stage for graduation day, which was a great day for them, right, but not really have tools and resources to make it beyond graduation day. And I wanted to be a part of the solution for that. And I said, hey, Jermaine, you should become a part of that solution. And there's a role that you have to play in this. So I decided that I wanted to create a one-day experience for young men. Not sure what that meant, not sure all of what that entailed, but I knew I wanted to do something to help, these young men for graduation day. And primarily what I wanted to do was clothe them for graduation day. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that's the true entrepreneurship spirit or entrepreneurial spirit. I want to do something for one day. I don't know what it is, but I know that I want to do something for one day. So that's when you figure out what you're gonna do. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I wanted to clothe them for graduation day. I wanted to put them in some, business attire so that when they walked across that stage, they would feel good about themselves, but that they would also look good. So I reached out to some local friends and donors and retail partners and say, hey, can you guys help me clothe these young men for graduation day? We need suits, we need ties, we need shirts, etc. And donations began to come in for this experience. But I knew that I did not just want to give away clothes. I wanted to create an experience. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to create a one-day, 8-hour conference for young men. And we're going to have workshops and seminars and guest speakers, all the bells and whistles. And if they make it through the entire 8 hours, then that's when the real fun will begin. They would then be able to go shopping in our on-site boutique for those business necessities, the suits, the shirts, the ties, etc. So we did that, Anthony, and we created this one-day experience, again, not knowing what it would be like. And to our surprise, over 300 young men showed up.
Wow.
Yeah, we were literally in downtown Chicago on the Magnificent Mile at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and the line was wrapped around the corner to get in.
And obviously there was no charge. You were I'm assuming no charge, correct? It was just
there was no charge.
Of course.
We wanted to do was empower these young men and help them look and feel good.
So I'm out of the 300 men, how many of them made it through the whole day to get to the part where you had the boutique shopping experience?
299.
One didn't make it?
One didn't make it only because he had another commitment later that afternoon that he had to leave early for. So, this day that we created was called the Project Gentleman Experience. And we had workshops and seminars. We had banks on site and financial institutions opening up bank accounts for these young men who had never had a bank account. We had barbers on site to give these young men fresh haircuts for graduation day. We had the military on site and the armed forces on site to do some recruitment, understanding that college is not for everyone. We had job recruiters on site giving away jobs right there on the spot for these young men who had successfully graduated from high school. And again, it was just an amazing day for these 299 young men, these 300 young men. And the day was over, and I was like, wow, this was great. And I was on to the next best thing in my career.
Yeah.
And that's when my phone started ringing. My email box started blowing up. My DM started going off with these same young men saying to me, hey, brother Jermaine, what's next?
So what year, let me get context. So what year is this, that this first event happened?
This was in 2016.
Oh, so is that, okay. And then question number 2, since it sounds like you didn't quite know how many boys were going to show up, did you have enough clothes for them? Was there enough?
We did have enough inventory for them. Yes, we did. We had about inventory for about 500 pieces or so. Yeah.
Nice. Good. See, that's another entrepreneurial, motivational type thing. You make sure that you set your standards higher than what most people would find achievable. And I make you bet most people were telling you there's no need for 200, let alone 500, whatever.
Absolutely.
But you essentially get the biggest room possible so that you can fill as many people. That's just the way it works. And that's great thought process. All right, we're in 2016. You've done this this first event. Your phone's ringing off the hook. Then what came next?
So the young men are asking me, brother Jermaine, what's next? And I'm thinking, what's next? We have given you guys, a stellar day. We've had guest speakers, we had presenters, we had gift bags, we got haircuts. You guys learned how to shine shoes, the whole 9. There's nothing more. And they kept calling. They kept calling saying, what's next? And I said, I think we may be on to something long term. So I said to the young men who were calling, I said, you know what? If you guys want something more, then here's what we'll do. The clothing that you guys received at the Project Gentleman Experience, I need for you guys to put on that shirt, put on that tie, and meet me down in the community at the local coffee shop on Saturday morning, and we'll have conversation. And we began having conversation after conversation, week after week, and that's what birthed I Am a Gentleman.
Aha. So it was essentially your first class communicating with you created the furthering of the concept.
Absolutely. So the one-day event, which was called Project Gentleman, really evolved into weekly mentoring under I Am a Gentleman, and that's really what started the organization.
Now that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of young men, young gentlemen. Did you have help, or was this literally all you?
Yeah, so no, we had help from the onset. I wish I could say it's all me, but it was not all me. I had friends helping, I had family helping, I had folks in the neighborhood helping. Again, just wanting to be a part of this movement to create change. Again, we did not know what the one-day event was going to be like. Certainly, we did not understand what the weekly mentoring was going to be like. And we held the first class. The young men showed up. And they showed up the following week. And that's when we created the ongoing weekly mentoring program. That was our first long-term initiative within the organization.
Excellent. So you mentioned your family. So now I'm going to go back. We're going to reverse time a little bit because I am curious. I like to know where this comes from. And I know that you said when you were growing up, you were an entrepreneur from the start. Um, I think a lot of people look at West Chicago and they'll probably go, how many entrepreneurs? Is that really a hotbed for people that are self-driven because of just the community and the unfortunate just systemic issues that happen there? So what was it in your childhood that kind of made you push to be this entrepreneurial spirit and to give back and to actually help people?
I grew up in a home with both mom and dad, but unfortunately, it was not the perfect home. But the good thing is that I always had great examples around me. So I had great examples in school. I had great examples from other community leaders. I had great examples from those who I would see in church on a weekly basis. And those examples that I had were primarily other men that I said, I want to be like that guy over there. I want to be like that brother over there. And because of those examples that I saw at an early age, I knew that when I became of age, I needed to be just as good as an example, if not better. And that's really what started, or what planted the seed in me of wanting to be the change and also to give back to make sure that others can be the change as well.
You use the word, unfortunately, not the perfect home, but ultimately, the way that I look at it, fortunately, it wasn't the perfect home because it caused you to see all these different male figures. Maybe your home life could have been great. You could have had a great mom, great dad, and I'm sure you'd have a great career doing great things. But seeing the positivity in even the negatives pushed you to this other side where you started recognizing something different, and it's blessed you with where you are today, and it's blessed a lot of these young men's lives as well, which I think is fantastic.
No, absolutely. I think we've all heard, someone along our path recite the quote, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade.
Exactly.
And that's really what I did. I took all of those pieces to that puzzle and made sure that I found out how they work together to create a beautiful mosaic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we'll fast forward back. You've got your first class. You've been doing the mentoring. How long of a program was that?
It was a 10-week program.
Okay.
And it literally caught on with the young men very fast. The young men, they would do three things, as I essentially like to call it. They would get up, they would dress up, and they would show up every weekend. And again, this program, was held on Saturday morning. So they had to get up early on Saturday morning. They would have to dress up and put on a white shirt and a pink necktie. And then they would have to show up in the local community simply to have conversation. After it caught on with the young men, then it started catching on with local people in the community. The news media heard about it and they reached out to us and they said, tell us a little bit more about these conversations that you're hosting on Saturday mornings. Yeah. After the news media heard about it, the Chicago Police Department heard about it. They said, we want to be a part of this. And then they became one of our partners, and it just became a domino effect and a ripple effect. And we call each of the 10 weeks that we host the program, we call them seasons. So currently we just completed season number 9. And it's amazing to see what has happened over the course of time. We right now track a 98% attendance rating each week. So much so where the local school board recently called us and they wanted to know what was the secret sauce.
Yeah.
And I said to them, what do you mean, what's the secret sauce? They said, well, you guys have a mentoring program that meets on a Saturday morning, which is, totally off peak at 8:30 in the morning, which require young men to wear uniforms of a shirt and tie. They arrive before the mentors arrive, and it's a 98% attendance rating each week. They said to us, you guys have a better attendance rating than the entire Chicago School Board, serving young men from under-resourced communities.
So what was your answer on why, out of curiosity?
I wasn't exactly sure, that there was one thing that we did. But what I shared with them was that we try to, once again, create and recreate an experience for these young men. You know, one of the great things that we're extremely proud of at I Am a Gentleman is we allow the young men that we serve not just to be served by us, but we give them opportunity to serve each other and the opportunity to serve their communities. We empower them with tools for leadership. So when we first started the organization, you know, it was, of course, you know, a cadre of adults that served on all of our teams. So we had, you know, the programming team, the curriculum team, the finance team, the logistics team. And several years in, we decided that that was working really good. But in order for us to go to the next level, in order for us to take this model and make it sustainable, we needed to allow the young men opportunities at the leadership level to do everything within the organization that the adults are trained to do.
Yeah.
And right now, all of those teams that I just mentioned within the organization, those teams are populated by not only the adults, but also the young men as well.
And I think ultimately what you're doing, especially, and you just even explained it even more with allowing them to make their way up the ranks, you're providing a sense of self-value that a lot of school systems don't have. And I've always said there's something to be said, and it's funny they brought up attendance. There's something to be said about showing up. Eventually,
Yes.
if you're forced to show up, you're with a bunch of people that are showing up. And I think part of your program is you found young men, you found gentlemen that are wanting to create a change in their life. They're wanting to change the pattern and dressing that way, doing something out of the ordinary for that community. Honestly, for any 18-year-old, that's just not normal. It's something different. So it's a pattern interrupter. Tony Robbins always says it great. It is a pattern interrupter of the way that their life has been before that. And you're providing them with that. And it's also taking the young men that want change and putting them all in the same place. And it's like eagles are going to soar with eagles. You take them out of the school districts that may have some troubled kids that may not. It's not. I firmly believe if kids are forced to show up day after day, eventually they become better. But we don't track attendance. We don't care about attendance. And I really, truly think that the biggest issues facing our country in terms of if you're looking at racial disparities or if you're looking at equity and equality is education.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think some of the other stuff we look at in this country, it needs change, but number one, it starts with education, and the inner city schools just aren't great at it. So I've always had this philosophy. I want to run it by you. This is a total curveball and off the beaten path.
Sure.
And this isn't just for Black and brown communities, but any of the lower income communities that rely on welfare. It's 2021. We can track anything these days, no matter what the school district is. What if, because a lot of times it's parents no longer care about their kids' attendance. They don't care about them going to school. They didn't go to school anyway. Like, they don't care. What if we, as a country, tied welfare to their children's attendance?
Wow.
What do you think?
Wow. That's certainly a novel idea.
I think that would be a way that, again, if you get kids going enough to school, they're forced to care more. And then all of a sudden instead of one side being the eagle and one side being the pigeon, it's allowing them to both meet on an equal playing field. And that's why your program is so successful, is you've got the people that want to soar with eagles, and they're dressed nice and they're not being made fun of by the people that don't care. Whereas how do we make everybody care? Just my 2 cents.
And you know, one of the things that I'll add to that, I would say that 98% of the young men who show up on the first day of our program, they don't want to be there. They have been coerced to go by mom or dad, in most cases mom. They have been referred by their teacher or their counselor at school. Their church has said, you need to go over there and, you know, get involved in something, you know, extracurricular. They don't want to be there. But after they get in on day one, by day 3, we cannot stop them from showing up. It's just been amazing. And people always ask, you know, us, you know, what is our marketing strategy? And the truth be told is that we don't do much marketing. All of the marketing that is done with the young men is done by word of mouth, from them telling their friends, their cousins, and their peers, you gotta be a part of I Am a Gentleman. And I believe it's because we've created an environment, but more so an experience that has empowered them, that is engaging at a very high level, and that has provided them with nothing less than excellence in all areas.
I love that. That's so good. Okay, so let's get back to kind of the timeline. So you've had 9 seasons total of these young gentlemen. And I keep wanting to say kids. I want to refer to them as who they are. They are young. They are gentlemen. Period.
Yeah, young men, young gentlemen,
young men. So you've put them through the course. You've put 9 groups through. You also have had other initiatives start as well, and then we'll get into the Kelly Clarkson and getting recognized on a national level. But what was the second initiative that you kind of brought up? And I believe as though it involved something on the feet.
Well, so the ongoing mentoring program was called Polka Dot Socks. And I know that's a really weird name, really quirky name. And people always ask me, Brother Jermaine, what does Polka Dot Socks mean? Why is that the name of the program? So we had the first season, and the young man that went through the program, we had a student by the name of Deshaun Adams. Deshaun Adams completed the very first season, and he was on his way to college. And as it's typical with many college students, we have allowed, we've given these young men trunks to go off to college, and the trunks are filled with all of the necessities to, have a very successful college career, toiletries, school supplies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we asked Deshaun Adams if he would come back and give a thank you to all of the donors who, provided that trunk for him. And Deshaun Adams came back and said on camera, I'm so grateful for I Am a Gentleman. I'm so grateful for everything that, you guys have provided with me to go to college with. He said, but everything in the trunk, even though it was beneficial, I really like the polka dot socks. He said, because before now, I never had any dress socks. I only had white socks and gym shoes. And I only would wear sports shoes. Now that I have dress socks, I feel like I want to wear some dress shoes and walk down a different path in life. And it was like, wow. Who knew that a pair of polka dot dress socks would now change this kid's entire life? And now he would just, want to just take a different path and be something and be a great leader.
And it's such an interesting metaphor. I mean, you're walking a new path. It starts with socks, turns into shoes. And it's fascinating that we look to our government leaders so much. We're like, what can we do? What can we get help with? And all this stuff, when really it's little things. And again, you're putting together a huge program, obviously, but the little things can make such a difference in somebody's life. It's the interaction we have at the bank. It's the interaction we have at the grocery store. We never know what a couple words can do, or a pair of socks can do to absolutely change somebody's life. Are you guys, in terms of all the different packages you put together, you said you've gotten obviously help and partnership from the local police, et cetera. How do you guys fund your program?
Yeah, so the majority of our program is funded by, everyday, people like you and I who have heard about the work and say, I want to be a part, and they write a check for $50 or they write a check for $100 and say, we want to give back to the work. That's how, we have not received any government loans or corporate dollars. That's the majority of our funding.
Where do they find that information? I'll have that up on and off for the rest.
Yeah, it's IamAgentleman.org.
.org. All right, I'll put the IamAgentleman.org. Got it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on the bottom of the screen. If anybody does want to donate, we'll go back and forth with that and our names up there. So you also are obviously very pressed, crispy, always looking good. Were you always that kid that was always like dressed to the nines? Were you like, did you get made fun of when you're like 7? Like, why is Jermaine wearing a suit again?
Yeah, I tell everyone it's my parents' fault. They started this at an early age, and it's really all that I know.
I like it. Well, it's funny because that's another thing you looking back in your life. And honestly, you probably would not have, I'm sure you would have done something different that had great purpose and cause, but yours is based off of something that probably as a young kid, and you were like, Mom, and this is where it got you. So,
yeah.
But I'm about to go into the Kelly Clarkson clip. There was one other thing I was going to, I want to before we do that, obviously leading into 2020, this was such a weird year for everybody in this country. So did anything change, or how did you balance the issues of COVID with what your mission was and what you were working on?
Yeah, just when COVID hit back in March of 2020, like many organizations, we had to pivot, and we stopped programming for about 2 weeks because we were meeting in person. But we have a really great team at I Am a Gentleman, and we were able to really take that 2 week time period, try to understand what was going on in the world, and create a virtual platform for the young men. And it was even amazing to see that even when we went virtual, the young men still got up every Saturday morning, dressed up and showed up on an online platform, ready for the engagement. Not only did we experience that, but we knew that it was not enough for us to just continue providing programming for the young men. We knew that a part of our mission needed to expand to touch others. So we created a full community service arm of I Am a Gentleman, where the young men were involved literally on a weekly basis when the pandemic first started, and then monthly, of providing community service to their neighborhood. Things like, going grocery shopping for others, making sure that we, at that time, furnished homes with tissue. Tissue was a big thing that you couldn't find on the store shelves. Making sure that we provided hand sanitizers and PPE to, those who were without. So our young men really have been at the forefront of community service, in addition to the mentoring engagement that we provide since March of 2020.
Love it. And last question, you obviously are spending a ton of time on this. You're a born entrepreneur. You have a bunch of different work, I'm sure. I'm assuming you also have either other businesses or a full-time job that you are working side by side with this, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That's exhausting.
It is, but the great thing about it is that on this side, the I Am a Gentleman side of things, it is the most rewarding thing that I've ever been involved in. To see a young man, walk through the door, not really sure of who he is, not sure of his purpose in life, but leave there a bona fide leader ready to create change, is the most fulfilling thing that I've ever been involved in.
Makes the rest of work probably that much easier.
Yeah, it definitely does.
All right, so go ahead and you know what clip I'm about to play, and the gentleman that's in it. Give a little background on him, and this is one of your students that made it through your program, through the I Am Gentleman program. So give a little backstory, and then I'll go ahead and play the couple-minute clip.
Yes, so you are about to view one of our students who we call Brother Isaiah. He's Isaiah Sherman from the south side of Chicago, who was a part of, I believe, season 3 and 4 of I Am a Gentleman. Isaiah is doing very well now. He just graduated college, and his story, along with our story, made national television on NBC on the Kelly Clarkson Show. And Isaiah talks about how he did not want to become a part of this program. His mom told him about this program, and he was like, "Mom, you think I'm getting up, putting on a dress shirt and a pink necktie on Saturday mornings? You have to be crazy." But in this clip, he'll tell you what happened.
I think I'm composed now.
Okay.
I would like to thank you, Jermaine, for a lot. You taught me a lot of lessons that, you don't see in a classroom setting every day. Those lessons are actually really important life lessons. And as a student, now at Hampton University, I felt more prepared than I probably would have been if I didn't take the class. You taught me so much how to be a gentleman, and people noticed that in my school. They was like, this kid, he's from Chicago, but he doesn't act like it. And I always had to explain to them I was part of a program called I Am a Gentleman. And I wear those letters, I wear that meaning by me every day. This polka dot white tie means a lot to me, Made me feel like, no matter the circumstances, at any point in your life can turn around for the better.
Absolutely.
Amen. Yeah. Well said. So there are many other young gentlemen who want to share their experience, and we have some current mentees back in Chicago with our good friend, Leanne Trotter. Let's check back in with them right now. Leanne, hi again. So, Leanne, you have a few students who'd like to tell us about their experiences, right?
That's right, I do. Hello, Kelly. My name is Kimari. I'm in 7th grade, and I am a current member of I Am a Gentleman. I started when my friends told me about it, and I really thought it was cool, so I joined. One thing that I learned about it is that it's very hard to learn how to be a gentleman. Another thing that I learned about it was from a previous session where the police officers came, and I learned that I can do more things for my community. One thing I want to do for my community is raise money for foster homes.
Wow.
I want to thank Brother Jermaine for helping me out and believing in for me, and I want to thank him for that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, sir.
I love it. So good. And I let you explain the stuff beforehand with the brother Isaiah that was on there. And he explained that what you were talking about, how it's like he didn't really want to go at first. And then he took minutes to compose himself because of the impact that you had on him. And clearly the impact you have on all of those kids, all those gentlemen that are creating such change in their life. And it's not change for the present, it's change for the future, and it's giving just such a sense of purpose. And it's things like this that can actually change the world. It's things like this that can change communities. And it's not just about talking about problems that we have in this country. It's about finding a way to get in the hearts of people and create that kind of massive change. So what is it like? What does it feel like, Jermaine, when you see past gentlemen who have gone through the program that are probably helping you with current classes today and see what kind of impact you have had on their life? What does that mean to you?
You know, 2 words, it's rewarding and it's extremely inspiring. As I mentioned, you know, I have been a lifelong entrepreneur, very successful at, you know, a few things. I have received accolades from, you know, business that I've been involved in. As they say, you know, been there, got the t-shirt, but it's not enough for me to receive the accolades, and it's not enough for me to be great. What is enough is for when the young men who are part of the next generation coming behind me, when they can become great as well. And when they begin to receive accolades, because now they are creating the positive change in their communities, that's really what makes me smile.
When you had the first day, the gentleman, what was the first day called? Gentleman Experience? The Project Gentleman Experience. Project Gentleman Experience. Did you have any idea that it would grow to this scale?
Not at all. You know, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of our discussion, I literally thought we were creating a one-day event to help clothe young men. And now our program has affected over 8,000 young men and adult men with everything that we do.
Can you say that number one more time?
8,000.
8,000. And it leads to the next question. Lindsay just asked, has Jermaine expanded to schools all throughout his state or anywhere else in the country, or is this part of the plan?
Yeah, so we have expanded. Much of our programming that we offer through, you know, it used to be called Polka Dot Socks, but we changed the name of it just last season. It's now called the Male Mentoring Academy. So the Male Mentoring Academy can be found in several local elementary schools and high schools in the Chicagoland area. And we do have the Project Gentleman Experience that not only takes place in Chicago, but takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada, Atlanta, Georgia, and Northwest Indiana. So we're always looking for ways that we can continue to expand the program.
I love it. So I know you mentioned earlier that you're not looking, or you have not had government funding. From a perspective of full growth, like to actually, you know, implement a program or implement a club like this at any, you know, school district in the country, that might take a little bit of funding. Would you ever consider government funding?
Absolutely. You know, I just tell people, you know, we're 5 years into the work and we're still playing catch up. So we're not beneath it, but we're still trying to, you know, playing catch up and just so involved in the program aspect of it. We really haven't just sought it out.
Oh, and grant writing is a job in and of itself. So that's a whole different subject. But yeah, I think, you know, I'm a big believer that, as I said, kind of like the little weird nuances, like tying welfare to attendance and stuff like that. That's one thing. But ultimately, these programs are so easy. These programs of finding ways of outreach, they're hard to come up with, per se. And maybe hard to execute because we're human beings. But once you start finding a way to get involved, the change is astronomical, and your dollar average of impact, if it is something that the government gets involved in, for every few dollars, it goes so much further than other programs that really do very, very little. So it's amazing. And you have the concept of community too. You talked about bringing in police, you talked about bringing in local speakers, local, leaders across the country, and just creating a concept of fellowship and community. And that kind of change is just, it's a bond that creates ripples, period, that just continue
Absolutely.
on. So I'm going to ask you one more question. If there's any questions from the audience, I'll be on the lookout. One more question moving forward, because I did see you got involved in 2020 with more news stories. They wanted to ask you, they came to you for advice or what was going on, and you actually had a program regarding the crime, the increase in crime in Chicago, which everybody in the country, I'm sure, has seen, has heard about, and you had a philosophy on the way that it should have been addressed and should be addressed. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jermaine?
Yeah, so in one weekend in Chicago in July of 2020, there were over 78 people who were shot. And many of those persons, unfortunately, were shot fatally. And we knew once again that it was our responsibility to do something about it. Of course, we cannot position ourselves to be the answer, but we can position ourselves to be a voice to the answer. So we wanted to create a town hall meeting to talk to the mayor, to talk to the police chief and other officials in our city. But those who were a part of the town hall meeting, talking to the mayor, the police chief and other city officials, were young men from under-resourced communities in Chicago. So we created this initiative and this experience called The Cry, where we had a panel of young people in a room filled with young people where the adults were doing nothing but listening. And the young people were primarily sharing with the mayor's office, her staff, the police chief, etc., how they have been affected by the gun violence in their communities. We started out the presentation where the young men and all those who were in attendance, they walked into a live funeral service. We had coffins brought in and caskets brought into this experience of all shapes and all sizes. And our opening line at that evening was, "This is common, but this is not normal." And it really got the attention of the city, got the attention of those who, we were designed to have the conversation with, to say, this is a problem and we want to be a solution and a voice to that problem.
Wow. So besides the city paying attention, did they listen, and have they implemented anything from that?
Well, one of the things that they've implemented, they did listen to your question. Yes, they did listen, but now they've implemented monthly talks that is sponsored by the city, where they're asking the young people to be a part of these discussions about ways that they believe that gun violence can be reduced in local neighborhoods.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, obviously you are, boots on the ground with these young men and young women. What kind of change? I mean, Chicago, obviously, since 2020, not much has changed. The crime continues to go on there. What kind of change would you want to see in your perfect world? If you could start, if you were the mayor of Chicago, what kind of changes would you make?
Yeah, I think we need to seriously look at, not just in Chicago, but in our country, we need to seriously look at gun laws. So that's on a global scale.
Yeah.
On the local scale, we need to look into prioritizing resources in under-resourced communities.
Yeah.
If you look at the South Side of Chicago, just as an example, and compare the South Side of Chicago with some other affluent cities, the school resources are totally disparaging. There are so many schools on the South Side of Chicago that have curriculum and textbooks that are 20 years out of date. Mm-hmm. Whereas you travel, to North Chicago, to a suburb such as Des Plaines or Winnetka, and all of the students have electronic technology that is updated on an hour-by-hour basis.
Yeah.
So we need to look at the resources and how we have prioritized those resources based on neighborhoods and zip codes.
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. So I grew up in the county. I was one of the poor kids that was like on free lunch with all of the city kids that were bussed in. But I saw something very interesting after I got out of high school years later, that although our financial means were very similar, just because I was in the county, I did have obviously a leg up in as opposed to them, because their amount of travel, and they were the kids that were bussed in from downtown St. Louis were essentially, it was almost like a pat on the back, like, oh, here, enjoy your schooling at a better school. But they didn't care. Nobody cared.
Sure.
Unless they were on the football teams, you know what I mean? And that was pretty much it. And I look at that, and it seems as though, like you said, what they were doing is spending the money to do what they felt was right by creating the desegregation programs and shipping them into the county, investing all the money in the county, and letting the inner city schools go to complete waste. And yet still operating them. It's not like they closed them. They still operated them. And it just created a pattern of continued lack of care in the education system. Do you see, now that I know that the desegregation program is like slowly being weaned, I think, in a lot of different places in the country, do you see that as an opportunity to start reinvesting in inner city community schooling?
Oh, absolutely. I think, once we make those investments, we will see, change at the grassroots level. And then we will begin to provide the assurance that, we have care and concern in what, used to be an under-resourced community, but now that's fully funded, that has resources, that has opportunity for growth and development.
Yeah. My one fear, and I just state this, my one fear is our country is based off of immediate results. This is not an immediate results situation. Not at all. This is a long game. This is a long-term plan. And COVID did not help, because a lot of the school district closing put everybody a year back. And I hope that as a country, and I hope voices like yours, as you continue to speak with youth, with young gentlemen, et cetera, I hope that the voices are heard and realize that we need to reinvest in schooling. We need to realize that some of the ideas we had in the 90s and the 80s and the 2000s, great effort, didn't work in any way, shape, or form, and not be afraid to reinvest one more time. So I have a last question before I ask what your future plans are as a person, not just with I am a gentleman. So somebody asked in here, where is it? There was a comment made, young ladies need a program. And I've heard you talked about the young gentleman that was on the show, Brother Isaiah, talked about how even treating a lady as part of your program. Has there been any interest or anybody that has come up and said that they want to start a similar program for women?
We've heard, people say that, they want to start something like that for young ladies. More importantly, we have heard so many comments to say, when are you guys going to start that for young ladies? When are you going to start? I am a lady. I'm a woman. And, I believe, again, this is my business hat speaking. I believe that you should understand your market. Yeah. And not saying that young ladies don't need a similar program, but there are so many opportunities for young ladies that did not exist for the young men. And I believe that was a part of our success record. When you look at, things for young ladies, there was always something for the young ladies, the fashion shows, the cotillions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There were not the same opportunities for young men. So that's why we focused on that lane to make sure that we created what did not exist.
I like that. And you know what? If once somebody asks the question, my typical response would be like, I'll give you my playbook.
Right. Absolutely.
And we'll share the playbook, but start it. And then in the end, once the program's up and running, guess what? Then you could co-collaborate and you can have cotillions. You could have events, and that'd be
absolutely
great. All right. So last question. I mean, you obviously have created change in your community. You're successful in business. What are your future goals? And I know you mentioned a little bit of your future goals as a man and as a community leader.
Yeah, so that's really great. As a community leader, I always want to make sure that anything that I'm involved with, I'm relevant. I'm at the forefront of, creating change, whether it's change in I Am a Gentleman or whether it's change with, partnering with someone else to help fuel, their vision and their mission. As a man, certainly I'm a young man. As a matter of fact, tomorrow is my birthday.
How old are you going to be?
I will be 39 on tomorrow.
Woo, we're the same. You and I are both 30, 38, 39. So
Oh wow,
happy
that's
birthday.
great. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've had a few years on Earth, but I'm not married yet and don't have any children of my own. But certainly that is a goal and aspirations that I desire to be married and have biological children, even though I have hundreds of sons within I Am a Gentleman.
I love it. Okay, so I was trying to. Do you have interest in politics? Out of curiosity.
No, not at all.
Not
Not
nope.
at all.
Nope.
Not at
Nope.
all. Not at
Well,
all.
the politicians often get stuck in paperwork and not being able to create change. So I completely understand that, and
Yeah.
I think that you got a lot of happy birthdays coming in. Oh, Lindsay's
Oh,
also the
thank
same
you.
age
Thank
as
you.
us. So I understand that, and continue to keep creating change that you do. And is there one message that you would want to leave people with to inspire them to create the change that they wish to see in the world?
Absolutely. It's very similar to, the platform that we're on tonight. So my message would be not only to create the change, but more importantly, to be the change.
I love it. Jermaine, thank you so much. Nikki, I'm going to make sure I owe both the Jermaines. I think it's funny. Both of our awesome change makers from Chicago are Jermaine. So I'm going to make sure you get hooked up with a Be the Change t-shirt, which will look fantastic under the right suit. I promise you. We'll get that sent to you. Everybody in the audience, thank you so much. I'm going to put this one more time up for everybody. If you would like to donate to the cause, IamAgentleman.org. Again, that's IamAgentleman.org. Please do us a favor. Share this episode once we are done. Check it out on the podcast link as well. And you could always find it, obviously, on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you guys so much. Jermaine, I'm going to pull you off and say goodbye to everybody. If you want to stick around and back, feel free. I'll be right back there just to thank you for being on the show. So I'll thank you in front of everybody too. Thank you so much for being here, Jermaine, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that inspired you to realize that a small idea can become a very, very big idea. 8,000 lives impacted, national stage, and showing that we truly have the power to create action in the world and create action in our communities. And it starts so incredibly small and can end up so incredibly big. You don't know what leaders that Jermaine is creating. You don't know what gentleman is going to go on to be the governor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, or the mayor of Chicago, or the person that creates the next major charity in order to help people realize that they could be something bigger, or somebody that all of a sudden starts one of the largest businesses in the Midwest. You don't know what kind of impact a pair of socks can make in somebody's life. So please, this week, as we go out into the world, be kind, be the change you wish to see in the world, stay positive. And again, we have the opportunity to create change in everybody's lives around us. And I hope you're moved to do so. And make sure you follow Jermaine in his journey. And thank you guys for being a part of ChangeMakers. Be a change maker yourself this week. Take it easy, guys. Have a great second half of the week.